and welcome back to Book Buzz with Jan and Peng, a podcast where we talk about romance books, our current reads, and we also have the pleasure of sitting down with some of our favorite authors and chatting with them about their amazing books. Hi everyone, welcome back. We're back with another fun interview. I hope you guys enjoyed our interview that we had with Amelia and her husband Josh. We had the best time. Today we are back with Wall Street Journal bestselling authors Parker S. Huntington and LJ Shen. I'm super excited because we're going to be talking about their co-write, My Dark Romeo, which was so freaking good. It was like, I love, and I think at this point everybody knows how much we love a mean hero. And like, Romeo was so mean, like the stuff he would say to her and like do to her. It was like, I loved it, but I'm also like, we need to smack him across the head a time or two. We're so excited to talk to both of them today. So make sure you guys sit back, grab some coffee, some water, and we hope you enjoy the interview.
I'm so happy that we're doing this. Seriously.
We're seriously so honored, and we are, I don't know about Jan, but for me personally, I am super nervous. I don't know why. We've interviewed Lee before, but I am still really super nervous right now. But thank you so much for Lee and Parker for joining us today on our podcast. It's definitely, like I said, it's an honor to have you both here. We just want to congratulate both of you for such an amazing release for My Dark Romeo. And we just want to ask both of you, how did release day go for the both of you?
Parker, do you want to take it?
I was just going to ask you if you wanted to. It was fun. It was exciting because I haven't released in a while. I think like 2 years or centuries or something like that. And I'm really excited about the feedback. The reviews are great. The readers are great. And they want Oliver and Zach. And they're obsessed with Romeo. It's obviously very rewarding to see and hear.
So I'm very picky about my process when it comes to writing. And this is why I haven't been, considering co-writing with anyone else. But when this idea came up, I just knew that I had to do it with Parker. And I'm so glad I did, because I think for the first time in a long time, maybe since The Villain, I saw that people were like losing their shit. And as we were writing, I knew they were going to lose their shit too. So it was a great release day.
And I'm glad that you said that, Lee, because it's true. Like, I remember when we first read The Villain, we were like so obsessed with Killian. Like, he was like that mean hero. And then also Parker has written some of heroes that just, I don't know what is it about a mean hero that I drool over them. So this book was seriously that icing in the cake that we were needing, because it was perfect. And that actually brings me, like, I know you said a little bit about the co-writing. How did that idea come up? Like, whose idea was it, and how did you both plan out this whole co-write?
You're gonna have to take this, Lee, because I was sick when we started writing this book, I was sick and I basically blacked out a lot of this. So you're going to have to take over.
Okay, so first of all, I'm glad that you asked me, because actually it was Parker who approached me, which I had to do like a double take, because Parker is also very obsessive about her process. Obviously, it takes her like 3 years to write a book. And like she obsesses over every detail, which I can relate to. And also I appreciate, I like a hard worker. So I think what happened is basically we both had the same idea. Obviously, we're friends. We talk to each other. We bounce off ideas. She better reads my books. I better read her books. a lot of the times we complement each other in a sense that, I read I remember a specific scene that I'm not going to say which book it was from, but I was like, listen, you can't do that. This is this is abuse. Like, this is straight up abuse.
Devious lies.
we don't do that here. And like sometimes she would read my book and she's like, listen, he sounds dumb, like straight up dumb. So we know to give it to each other straight. And I think what happened was we were bouncing off ideas, and she had an idea and I had an idea, and it was a very similar idea. And I think, with us, we always want to, there's this weird thing with writers where we're like, okay, but I'm going to do this different, okay? Because we don't want to step on any toes. And she was like, let's just write this together. And I had to do like a double take. I was playing it cool. It was like getting asked to the prom by someone who is going to be like, pink. So I was like, yeah, I guess I can do that. I can do that. And that's how it started.
It works because I call her my work wife.
So how long did it take, since the ideas both came to you guys, that's kind of similar, how long did it take for you guys to come up with the full plot for the full book?
We worked on it. I'm pretty sure we started it immediately after we talked about it, and it just kind of developed pretty fast. We went through some kinks in the sense that we had to scrap words, start over, re-outline. I think there were 2 or 3 outlines, but it was our first time doing something like this. So, and when you're co-writing, you kind of have to get into a groove. And then once you're there, it's golden. And once we got into the groove, everything was smooth sailing. Which is pretty impressive because Lee has a lot of kids. She just pops them out.
I do. 2 of them are crying right now, by the way. But yeah, it's their dad. Is their dad's. I'm off duty, so I can hear them in the background as you said that.
How long did it take for both of you guys to write it?
It was pretty fast. Are we counting that first draft that we scrapped? If we're not, if we're excluding that, which I hope we do because I'm blacking it out from my mind. We had a first draft done in I don't know, I want to say we did it in November and then edited late November, early December, sent it to Audible, and the rest is history.
Oh, wow.
One of the things that people don't understand about Parker is that she's a very fast writer. I think you wrote Darling Venom in 3 days or something ridiculous.
I wrote Devious Lies in 14 days while I was doing my master's thesis. And people are really surprised to hear this because it takes me 2 years to publish a book. And it's because I scrap drafts.
She did. And I think in that sense, we complement each other because I am we write a dumb bitch, kind of that's my approach when I start a book. I'm I'm gonna start this book, I'm gonna make this my bitch, I don't care. And then we can always come back and edit, and sometimes first drafts are awful. For Pretty Reckless, I had 4 complete drafts before I was okay, this is good, I can work, good bones, let's go with it. So with our co-write, I knew that I was going to have to just go listen, this is a good draft, these are good bones, I'm gonna write the first 1,000 words and we're starting this, we're gonna finish this. And once she was okay, this is, we're going to commit to this plot, it was smooth sailing. Yes.
It's really hard to get me to commit to literally anything. I've been dating the same person for almost 10 years. We're not married.
You're not dating. You're you're partners. Why are you so casual? I've been dating the same person. He's more your family than your he sees her family more than he does.
It's true. I live next to my dad, literal neighbors. And I'm a hermit.
And with the whole co-writing experience, like I think me and Ping have talked about it before. Like we're very curious to how it works with, because I know you both say you want, and you can tell with whenever we're the readers are reading your book, and for us we're like, oh my god, it's perfect, we love it, these heroes are done like perfectly. How do you both come together to write a book? Like, is there any, like, how does it work? How do you guys choose who writes what, which character to write? Or has there ever been, was there an experience doing this book to where, let's say Lee wrote a scene, and did you, Parker, ever come out and say, how about we change this scene and make it a little bit different?
Oh, yeah. So I wouldn't ask, I would just do it, and vice versa. There is no permission going on there. Okay, so what happened would be I don't sleep, and then she has a weird sleep schedule because of the kids. And so like she'll send me a draft at night, and then I'll send it back in the morning. And so I'll stay up around, I don't know, like 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. doing it, and then I'll send it to her and she'll have it in the morning. And then we just switch off, and then we use track changes. So if she wants to go through my edits, like she can and see where I changed or added things. And if she doesn't, then I don't know. I honestly didn't ask her because we both went through the drafts so many times that I knew that if we were ever to go back and change things, even if we didn't like it in that moment, we could always go back and change and change and change, etc. Like,
yeah, I have to say I changed things too, and I didn't ask for permission. I just put like a comment like this is not happening, and then I would just change it.
Yeah, like I think I mean it helps that like we're really close friends, and also when it comes to writing, I don't really take things personally. So and I don't think Lee does either. So what we'll do is we literally just gave each other free reign. And then I mean, I'm sure she went in to change stuff and I went in to change stuff, and there are chapters that you'll look at it and you can't really like be like, oh, who wrote this whole chapter, because there are lines from her, there are lines from me, and like I think it came together pretty seamlessly.
If I may say so myself.
Oh, sorry, was that too full of myself?
That was so humble. So it brings me back to like, I mean, I knew that if I were ever to write a book with someone, it would have to be a very, very talented, very, very smart someone, because sometimes even as a reader, like I would read something and I would be like, I would change, I would not write it the same way, even if I like it, by the way. It's just, it's like a knee-jerk reaction. I think it's just like a director, watching a movie going like, oh, I would shoot this in another way. So at first I trusted her from the get-go. And then the other thing is, as she said, I think we both don't take criticism personally. I think, Parker comes from academia. So, you're used to like, getting, having your professor rip you a new one. And I come from journalism, and I'm used to editors. I mean, I was a lowly journalist initially. So like, I know, I mean, we're both familiar with criticism, and we don't really mind it. I don't think I don't think she has an ego when she steps into a book, and I don't either. And I liked that about us.
I don't know, but for me personally, when it comes to co-write, I seriously would think, who wrote this? Who wrote this part? And so it's actually good to know what Parker just mentioned earlier, that both of you work it together. And so, because there are some times when you read it, you'd be like, oh, I can tell who wrote this. I can tell. But then for this one, I was seriously having a hard time. I was like, right, did Lee wrote this or did Parker wrote this? Because it really seriously flows together so well that I was like, are they the same person?
This is the first time I ever heard of that. That's completely new to me. So when she would write a chapter, I would
Mhm.
come in and there would be like red lines everywhere. And when
Mhm.
I would write a chapter, it would be the same thing. I would, get it back. And sometimes I'm like, I mean, this is 50-50. It's like literally like we co-wrote this chapter as if we were in the same room. So I
Mhm.
think because I think we both have a strong voice and we want to hear things like when we read it to ourselves, we want to hear our own voice, which is good. And I think this is why sometimes, I mean, I know what you mean because I sometimes read like co-writes and I'm like, I can recognize this person in this chapter, you know?
Mhm.
And it's usually you can tell like in a certain character because it's funny that Payne said that because I don't remember exactly the scene, but it was Romeo's chapter. And I was reading it and it was like 12 midnight. And I was like, oh, it sounds like Lee wrote this. And I'm reading, I was like, no, it sounds like Parker. Who cares? Just keep reading.
And what is one thing for the both of you that's the hardest when you co-write? And what is the best thing about co-writing?
So when I write personally, I tend to take a really long time. Well, the writing itself is fast, but I take a long time to actually like accept the words, if that makes sense. Um, so it was nice to have someone kind of like force me to not do that. Um, that was like the bonus. The hard part, I would say, just scheduling wise, it was a really, really like tight schedule in the sense that we have two people, and we're both quite busy, and we had to make it work, which just kind of meant like round the clock hours or just, shifting a sleeping schedule so that we could get this done.
Did,
Yeah, I was good.
did you guys set a date of when you wanted to finish the book, or was it a let's write it in a like just let's write it and not set a time of when it needs to be done?
I think Lee does everything with a date because she has her shit together, and typically I don't. But for this one, because it was with Lee, we had a date involved,
Yeah,
and that kind of lit a fire.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Because of, Montlake and Bloom and all of those things, I knew that, I mean, I had like this amount of time to write it, and if not, then I'm gonna miss the train because I don't want to overwhelm myself, and I have, as she said, a million babies, and so yeah, there was like a date, but I have to say that we finished it quite before the date because at some point we just got into like like a rhythm,
Throughout the whole book, which scene was the hardest to write?
The first chapter.
Yes, we went back and forth. We actually trimmed like I think like 3K from the first chapter because the first chapter is usually world building,
Yeah.
So there's like a lot, like you throw a lot of information in, like the information dump is pretty intense, especially because I think we both had a very good idea of like what we want this world to be, and it's a very like it's for me at least it's a very special kind of like I don't know sexy world. So I mean once we came back we had to like just like I was like, oh, like seriously, fuck. It's 4K and they haven't met each other and they're in the same room. We need to do something about that. And I think the other thing is that we're both like naturally very wordy. We like to set the scene in a very very like specific way. So like there was no one reining the like nobody was pumping the brakes. Like we just kept talking and at some point I was like, is this a culinary book? Because it's been like 5,000 words and all she does is eat. I was like, Parker, she's gonna get diabetes.
It's kind of funny how you guys brought up chapter one because, like Jen, we were kind of talking about it yesterday, of how when they first met, how she all she wanted was that shortbread from his table, and we were like, that seriously, the way how the writing was, I can literally picture that in my head, seeing her going to his table trying to get that shortbread, and he just calling her out. And I love that she loves food because I
We're big foodies, both of us. This came straight from the heart. Like there's nothing more authentically us than
Mhm.
Dallas's love for food.
Agreed. I am obsessed, and I probably my favorite things in terms of writing my Dark Romeo was throwing in food.
It's very true. And I have to say that I think in books, a lot of the times it's like it's very contained, like the way people eat. Sometimes I read books and it's like, he goes to the gym and she's making, and she's, eating a salad, and it's like, no, this is not what I live for. My life, my passion is food, you know? I mean, and I think it had to be this way because in my relationship with Parker, 90% of it is just us sending each other pictures of food, and it's 10% like actual conversation.
And I know you guys mentioned a little bit about the world building, but I'm very curious because I feel like I was cracking up at the bromance in this book. You had Ollie, you had Zach, and you had Romeo. Like, how was it building that world, like building that world around that romance? That if you look at the comments, I feel like everybody is obsessed with it. There's times, and me and Ping were talking about this yesterday. Like right now, like for me, out of Romeo, because I love Romeo, Ollie is like everything. Because he's funny, but it's like he's the funny one from the group. So how was it building that friendship and those side characters as well?
So I think so Romeo was kind of like my and Parker's baby. He was definitely our baby. Like this is like, my egg, her sperm. See, because she's my wife. So he's definitely our baby. And I think with Ollie and Zach, Zach is her baby. He's this super, super, super intelligent, super focused, super self-controlled, like, genius guy. Kind of reminds me of her. And Ollie is like my favorite guy to write because he's like, Dean and Knight and Hunter. And like I love the silly goose. I love writing the silly goose. I love writing men horse. I think there's nothing more satisfying than taming the men horse. Like seriously, it's what I live for. So, but honestly, I have to say that like when we were writing the book, we were kind of like just for the fun of it, like nothing concrete, but we were like, tossing ideas about their books. And I think Zach's, ideas were a lot more, for lack of a better word, like just a masterpiece waiting to be written.
I agree. Zach is my baby, and I am excited. And I think just our ideas that we have around him and his character, he's someone that I've basically been waiting to write my entire career.
And well, that brings me to asking, what are the chances? Because I finished this book, and the first thing I did is I messaged Lee and I said, when are we getting another book? Or is there going to be another book to the series? Because I feel like you guys build these side characters to where the reader is so invested and interested in them. Like, for example, Ollie, like, can someone please just give him Frankie's phone number? Like, I need a book around him finally getting that phone number. And I'm very interested in Zach as well. So what are the chances of this expanding to not just being one book?
Okay, so we have really busy schedules, and I think the only thing getting in the way is our scheduling. Like personally, I just wrote a prologue for like the 11th time, and so that's how that's going. For a different book. And then I think I saw Lee's schedule for the next like 2 or 3 years because she plans so far in advance. And it's utterly crazy. So we just need to kind of iron out time for it. And if we can do that, then we're golden. But really, like, it seems so simple, but it's really hard to find the time.
I agree. I mean, for me, it is, I mean, sometimes something just clicks. And with that series, I mean, it clicks, things are there. It's not going to be a difficult one to write, I feel like, not for me, not for her. And I do enjoy holding her accountable because a lot of times she would send me like fractions of books that are going to be insane, and then she would just drop them and start something else. So she kind of like she causes me little heartbreaks like every year, a few times a year. So I'm very interested too. I think it's just a matter of like because she's writing prologues for a living apparently, and I'm currently writing something that I need to hand over in May. So once we figure it out, I think if we figure it out, like it's not a matter of like, I mean, no question.
We are writing this down because I need more books from this world. I seriously need Zach's and Ollie's books. So please, 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 when you guys both have time, but we are dying for it. Since you guys both did say that, you guys both love food and Dallas loves food. Who is another character that you guys relate to most in the book?
I mean, for me, it's Zach.
She's very much Zach. It's crazy. Like she's a brainiac to the extreme. Sometimes like my husband and I would have a conversation and I would be like, let me just ask Parker, okay? Like Parker is gonna settle this, okay? Or he would be like, call Parker right now, ask her. And it's like, it's not even about books. It's like it's not. So she is a fountain of knowledge, and she's very much like Zach. I can't relate to Ollie because I am a 36-year-old mother of three. Who is a billionaire. For me, I'm my girl is Hattie. I always root for like, just like I'm not gonna say the simple girl because nothing about her is simple, but like, I'm that girl,
So how do you guys come up with the names? Like Romeo and Dallas? Because some people, and I believe for Ollie, was it Ollie? Someone mentioned that his last name, I believe, was part of a noble family. And so they're asking, how did you guys come up with all these names that is quite unique?
Oliver von Bismarck, that's Ollie. I didn't come up with that. Son, Zach's last name. Zach's first name is Lee. I don't know where she came up with it, but the last name, that was me. And then personally, I really like short last names. Just cause I don't know, I do. I like one syllable last names. And so Zach's last name for me is catchy. And then for female names, I like names that kind of sound melodic. So like for Devious Lies, you have Emery Winthrop. And then for this one, you have Dallas Townsend. And I have like a naming book of characters and like heroine names that I want to eventually use. And I kind of went through the list of that when I was on the phone with Lee. And then we agreed on Dallas. And that's how that came about. And then Romeo is obviously like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because like everything else, it was just 50-50. She gave Dallas, I gave her last name. Romeo was something we kind of like thought about together. I gave her Zach, she gave me Son. Like it was just it was like 50-50. I will say that she tends to have like good, catchy, eccentric names for heroines, and I usually go with like Grace or like Rosie. So we had to sit this. I mean, there was like a lot of back and forth with Dallas. I was like, what? I mean, can you give me a name that is actually like in existence? Something that people are going to be familiar with.
I love my quirky heroines down to the name. I just love them. It's like my non-negotiable.
Yeah, I remember the first time I read Devious Lies, and the character Basil came in, and I had to stop. I was like, listen, we're gonna have to have a chat, and she kept it. I think it was one of the first times I told you not to do something, and you did it, like in a book.
At least I took out that elevator scene.
I wouldn't carry on if you didn't. But okay.
The elevator scene was written differently in the original draft for Devious Lies, and she, like, all caps, wrote this massive comment saying, "No, this is abuse," and then I changed it.
It was. I mean, I wish sometimes, you know what? At some point in our career, you're gonna have to tell people what you wanted to put in that scene, because I mean, when I think it's too toxic, you know that you have crossed the line.
I would want to read it. Please send it to me.
Now I'm so curious. Like, we need some deleted scenes and stuff.
I thought it was tame. I still think it was tame, but because 3 people, after I got second and third opinions, told me to change it, I changed it.
I'm gonna take this to the grave with me, but please consider telling people what you wanted to do, because I mean, this is just gonna be the gift that keeps on giving. Like, it was so glaring. I was like, you can't get away with it, okay?
That's why there are triggers.
No, but it wasn't. No, Pang. Listen, this is not. I mean, there are subgenres. There are triggers. You know, no, this is like, this is what's the word? Like, universally, and something that you don't do. Okay, let's just keep it that way.
Some people do it, but they usually end up in jail. Let's just clarify.
Okay, let me amend. People do it and then they serve prison time.
I remember I was reading a book. I don't remember the name of the book. And then it was actually it's a dark romance, and the hero actually pretty much the heroine. And I told Jen, I was like, Jen, oh my gosh, this is the first book I've ever read where the hero, the heroine, and I don't know what to do. But I kept
okay, we'll say it was not that. Okay.
Listen, if it's marketed as like a dark romance, like I've read some really like let's say interesting scenes, but you know, you kind of wait for it, you know, like, you know, there are certain authors that write dark romance, and I know that when I get into their book, like, this is to be expected. But Devious Lies was a book where, like, I got the, like, I thought, you know, I got the scene, I got the vibe, I got the characters, and then, like, I don't know, I was like, did he have an episode? Like, what's happening?
So to get back to the question, what did you guys like most about Dallas and Romeo together?
I liked yeah. Like, for me, I want an enemies to lovers that really feels like there's the enemies component. And they just, like, could not get along. And I loved it. I ate it up. I just love banter.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think for me, one of the things I really love about enemies to lovers, especially when the guy has the upper hand, is for the heroine to just ruin his life as thoroughly as possible. It gives me a lot of joy. So doubt, like, you know, some people were like, oh my God, the 700K scene. And I was like, that's good. That is good. He needs to know that he can't, you know, get away with it. And everyone was like so shocked. And I was like, you know, we didn't actually spend 700K, right? Like, it's a book.
I actually, I know that Romeo is a huge a-hole, but the thing is, I love a mean hero. And there are times when I read and I get, it might just be me, but I get so annoyed at Dallas. I was like, dude, just listen to Romeo. But because I always back up the hero. Even when he is the biggest jerk ever, I'll always tend to back up the hero and be annoyed and mad at the heroine. I don't know. It's just something that I it's normal for me when I read. And seriously, when it is so hard for Dallas to break down Romeo's wall, and I love it when his wall broke down, but then at the same time, I was like, I want him to be that hard, mean hero. But everything, like I seriously love how it's so hard for Dallas to do everything that she did just to get Romeo's attention. And I remember seeing someone's post saying that why is it so hard to break down this man's wall? And when is he gonna get down on his knees for her? And I seriously love how that relationship of theirs went throughout the whole book.
I think I agree with you. And I think the other thing that I also like about Parker's writing and about my own writing, see how I give us compliments, is that our heroes, even after they fall and they fall really hard, they do not become mushy. They don't like change their composure or their personalities. They're just like assholes who love this one person. And I think this is very much Romeo too, because like first of all, he fell in love with her far before he admitted it to her or to himself. I think the scene where, this is a spoiler, so if you haven't read My Dark Romeo, please don't listen to the next part. But the scene where like he buys her the book and then he listens to her conversation with Frankie, and then he throws away the book. It's a classic. He's an asshole, and he had like a glimpse of like this could be different, but then he realized that the world sucks, and that includes her. So yeah, I love these kind of like small crushing moments.
And I will say, because Parker did make a comment on how she loves enemies to lovers, and I love reading an enemies to lovers, but it's always a little bit like, I'm not saying annoying, but it's frustrating when you read a book and like the first chapter, the heroes are like attracted to each other. But I feel like in this one, like he had a plan and he didn't go into that plan like ready to like win her over. Like, no, like Lee said, spoiler, he seeked her out to that garden for his plan only. And he didn't think of going there for any other reason but that, which was what I love, because I was like, oh my gosh, okay, now the tension is building. He's an a-hole for doing that, but I also love it because that's his full intention of, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to get. No other reason is involved in that.
I agree. And I think the ruthlessness in Romeo is something that Zach and Ollie also have, but it all comes from like different, from different places. So for Romeo, it was revenge. He just couldn't see past his need to like stick it to Madison. And then I think for Ollie, his ruthlessness stems from just the fact that he's the most like spoiled and privileged man on planet Earth, which is going to be great to bring him down, right? Because he has no idea how the real world works. And Zach is just and I think Zach is going to be the best, the most delicious wall breaking character to write, because
I agree.
he literally, of course you do, he literally like he genuinely doesn't feel like no one.
He's just so clinical. I love it.
He's so pragmatic, he's so uncaring, and not from like a mean the world broke me place, but I mean, you can read in My Dark Romeo that he has a good family life. It comes from like, you're just all peasants, I love that.
Well, I'm crossing my fingers that everything works out and you guys have time, because I am very interested in those two characters.
To go off a little bit topic of my Dark Romeo, since you guys both did say that you better read each other's books, which one is your Lee? Which one is your favorite from Parker? And Parker, which book of Lee's is your favorite?
Parker can start.
Because you have so Lee beta reads my books and they don't get published. Like, she's not like she's literally in my head. I'm like telepathically telling her right now, if it's a book that's not published, you better not say it. Okay, personally for me, my favorite book of Lee's, it's actually one I did not beta read, and it's the OG, it's Vicious. Like, I recommended it to my sister after she got tricked by one of those. So, okay, so there are these like ads on these sites, like you click on it after reading a long passage, and then next thing you know, you're reading a book that has 2,000 chapters and will cost you like $3,000-$4,000 to read. And so she got sucked into one of them, and she was like 100 chapters in, and nothing happened yet. And so I was like, okay, just read this. And she doesn't know what I do or my pen name or anything. So I mean, we'll see how long that lasts. But like it's my favorite. It's the one I recommend to everyone. I mentioned it. I even mentioned it in my thesis. When I was doing my master's, I was doing like it was just like comparative literature, and I was talking Taylor Sheridan and Damien Chazelle that I mentioned Lee.
This is my claim to fame. Yeah, so by the way, I don't know how you glossed that over, but like her sister doesn't know her pen name. Like how intensely private is this person? Okay. Moving on. I think, listen, first of all, there's one book of hers she doesn't allow me to read, but I'm not going to say which one it is. For me, it's a tie between Devious Lies and Darling Venom, but I think Darling Venom is always going to have like a very, very, very special place in my heart because it's so different from everything I've ever read. I think it's just different. I think Devious Lies is its existence in the, dark billionaire world. It's probably like, in the top 2 or 3 ever written for me, but it's still a genre that I'm very, very familiar with. And Darling Venom is just different. Everything about it is different. Everything about it is compelling and angsty and lyrical. And so I think Darling Venom, not because it's better per se, but just because it's a game changer.
Yeah, but don't ask me to write another Darling Venom again.
No, that's not. And I will say that I do know of something that she's working on. I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to say the plot, but I think it is I mean, it's also, I love when she does things that are original and nobody else does. And I really hope that she's going to write this.
It's the one I just wrote the prologue for the other day. I mean, the 10th, 11th prologue for. But it's a good prologue. Like, I think this is the one. I think this is a keeper. So now I can move on to the first chapter after 2 years.
3. 3.
Like, I wish I were kidding, but that's actually how long it has taken to settle on this prologue.
But the thing is, with you, Parker, it's like you might take a long time to publish a book, but when you do, it's like so freaking good. So it's like so worth the wait. So it's like what it says, like perfection takes time.
Let's hope.
Funny.
So just to without giving too much details, I know, then what are you both, because I know Lee has a few releases, 2 more, is it 2 more or is it 1 more release this year, Lee?
It is 1 more release this year. I have Fallen Foe coming this May. It's the second book in the Cruel Castaway series. The first one is Birth Survival, which everyone can get on Kindle Unlimited. I might have another one, but that is to be seen.
Will that be an indie release?
Oh, it's definitely going to be an indie release. Yes. I do have. I'm writing my first book for next year right now, and I'm actually done. I'm editing it, but there's a lot. I mean, it's a hot mess, so it's going to take some time.
And for Parker, I know you're right. You probably just finished the prologue, but do you have an estimation? Because since you did say that you can write a book really fast, Devious Lies is a freaking thick book, and you finished that within 14 days. So do you have an idea of when will you publish that book?
Okay, so this thing could take me 2 weeks, 2 years to write. I don't know. But ideally I want another release this year. I can't guarantee it. Like for me, after writing a book, I need time off to figure out how I'm going to market it, do the covers, etc. This one, like I've been sitting on this for quite some time. I mean, I don't think it's the book that my readers want because they're always asking for Marco's story, and I feel really bad because I have like 110K of Marco's story written. I'm just not doing it. And it's like I can honestly say it's not gonna be that one, and it's not Delilah's story. Sorry, also. um, but once I finish this one, I'll definitely work on those. And I like just in general, I want either Marco or Delilah to be released next year, which means I need to do this one this year. And now that I've said this out loud on something that is going to be out in the wild, I'm probably like more likely to complete it. Hopefully, maybe, probably.
We'll keep you accountable for it.
Yeah, I mean, this one, the problem with this one is that, like, I mean, I joke that I'm not going to write another Darling Venom, but this one has this kind of like angsty feeling to it that I think kind of takes me not necessarily longer to write, but it takes me through a different writing process than my norm. And so it's just hard to guess, but this one's good. Like I can honestly say in my gut right now I have a very, very strong feeling about this book.
Let me just say that Darling Venom, that book was definitely seriously perfection. I love that book so much. I have 3 different versions of it on my shelf because I love that book so much. And it's a really emotional book, but it was so well done. When you wrote that book, I just have to ask, how did you come up with the idea of Darling Venom? Because I don't, like Lee said, it's a very different book from all of your books. And so how did you come up with that idea?
I would say I plotted it with my friends, Lee and Ava. So they helped me plot it, and then I wrote it, and Lee Beta read it. And basically, when I was plotting it, like the book within the book, I've always wanted to do that type of concept. But how do I say this without spoilers? But like, there's a twist at the end, and for me personally, like I watch a lot of K-dramas, and I watch Chinese dramas, and just I'm Vietnamese, so I like just consume a lot of Asian content, and it tends to have a lot of twists in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the twist at the end is heavily inspired by just what I consume. I don't really read much lately. Like for the past few years, I haven't read a lot of books, and so I watch a lot. And so a lot of the scenes and how Darling Venom played out, it was inspired by shows. Just watching in general themes.
So before we let you both go, we have this little short game there's really no name for it, but maybe I'll say who says what, my Dark Romeo version. Okay.
Mhm.
So we'll read 3 quotes, and maybe
I'm
you
gonna
guys
fail this. I'm 100% failing this, by the way. Okay.
We'll I'll read there are 6 quotes, and so I'll read one, and then maybe you guys can go each one guess to see who said that. Okay. And so
Lee before, right? I feel like we've done this with Lee before.
Yeah, I feel like I failed so miserably. I was like, who am I? Who even am I? But yes, I'm ready. My body is ready. Let's do this.
okay, the first one. You're going to be my favorite mistake.
Dallas says it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hate is a more powerful drive than love.
Um,
I feel like it's Romeo. Could be Zach, but I think Romeo.
I would say Romeo.
Yes, it's Romeo. If she ever does, I'll hit that so hard I'll leave indents.
Sounds like all. Is
It
it
has
all?
to be Oliver.
Yes, it's Oliver. I will go to extreme lengths to make sure you are mine. I want you.
That has to be Romeo, right? Or no, that's Dallas.
Yes, it's Dallas.
Mhm.
And then this one. A picture's worth 1,000 words, but your face only says one. Pussy whipped.
Zach.
Yes. And then the last one. I have never in the 11 years you have known me changed my destiny to that of a beautiful sociopath.
Romeo.
Yes. You guys passed it like a shooting star. So
So excited. That's because I had Parker as my cheat sheet, but okay.
well, thank you both so much for being with us on today for this podcast. I definitely had a good time, and I love my Dark Romeo. So thank you, especially Parker. Thank you so much for just being with us on this podcast, and Lee for coming back. Thank you so much for coming back. It's such an honor to have you both here, and I really hope I can't wait for more books from the both of you, whether it's your own release or with co-writing together. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And same, I can't wait for me to release too.
Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Parker and Lee, for joining us today. Seriously, it was an honor. I had so much fun. I am obsessed with Dark Romeo. I feel like I was in a really big book hangover for like weeks. I can't explain why, how, but I just was. And I remember when this landed on my Kindle, like it was a no-brainer. I read that like within the matter of hours. I did not go to sleep. I was so thankful that the following day I wasn't working. So I was able to actually like stay up and read without being scared that I was going to be falling asleep at work. But it was seriously, it was amazing. I loved it. It was perfection. And I really hope that we get more into this world. I want Ollie, but you know what? Suddenly I'm super like curious about Zach.
I've been I didn't say it, but I've been I am actually more excited for Zach's book because he, like they both said, Zach is a seriously, he have no feelings. He seriously showed no feelings in the book, and I really need to see someone bring him down to his knees, I guess.
You know, for me, I guess because my whole attention was on like give this poor man that phone number. I didn't really pay pay that close attention to how Zach's demeanor, his
Mhm.
story, his backstory was. So I did not really think of it until Parker and Lee put it
Mhm.
into words how he was. So now
Mhm.
I'm very curious because who doesn't love a guy who doesn't believe in love, who's a playboy, who only worries about himself, and
Mhm.
like who doesn't love a hero that out of nowhere like starts
Yeah.
putting someone in front of his feelings? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
I love a book like that. Like it is
Mhm.
business. So I really hope it like it's in the universe and that all stars align and that it happens.
Mhm.
And I am so excited for everything that's to come for them. Now I'm also very curious to that deleted scene from Parker because I'm just like, I want to read it. But I'm so thankful for both of them for taking time out of the day to join us today.
Mhm.
For everyone listening, if you have not picked up my Dark Romeo, please do. And we're excited to announce we're going to have a signed paperback. But by sign, I am going to mention they're all digitally signed. So even the PR books that went out, they're all digitally signed. So if you want a chance to win a paperback, head over to our Instagram and we're going to be having that giveaway there. Make sure you check that out. If you guys have any questions for us, please let us know. You can send us a message on Instagram or send us an email. We will try to be back next week. And hopefully we'll finally talk about all these books that we've been reading, and about all the new book thing, new book world that's been happening. But if we're not, we'll be back soon. We did also post an update on our boxes. So if you haven't had a chance, please check that out. And we will be announcing our next author collab box next month. So make sure you check that out. We're so excited for that. And we hope you guys have an amazing week. If you haven't read my Dark Romeo, please pick it up. And we'll be back as soon as we can. Bye.
Bye.